السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I don't like bothering them when they do salah, so just give them a few minutes. Isha is earlier, no? Somebody complained about last week when you guys did Isha and ran out. So today is kind of long, so hopefully we'll have enough time. الحمد لله رب العالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. We praise Allah, God Almighty, the Lord of everything in existence. We testify that He is the only one deserving of worship and that Muhammad is His servant and His messenger. We ask Allah to bless this messenger Muhammad, to elevate his mention and rank, and to shower him with protection and grace along with his family and his righteous followers until the last day, as He did with Ibrahim, his family and righteous followers in the past. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. We ask you, Allah, to teach us what benefits us and to allow us to benefit from the things that we learn and to increase us in knowledge. اللهم اجعل ما تعلمناه حجة لنا لا علينا. We ask you, Allah, to make the things that we learn an evidence for us and not an evidence against us. Welcome to another episode and session of Prophetic Stories, Illustrations of Life, where we're covering events from the life and times of the Messenger Muhammad and trying to extract lessons that we can apply in our daily lives. Tonight's topic is Prophetic Night. Before I get into tonight's topic, I had a 15-hour series called The Prophetic Day, which covers the 24 hours of the life of the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I would highly recommend that if you're interested in seeing how he spent his time, to check that out. Today is going to be one of those portions of the day and how he went about spending it. So this is a night in the lifetime of the Messenger. It goes by smoothly as normal, just like the rest of his blessed life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, this night was experienced and was captured by an eye that was awake. Typically, nighttime is a time of sleep, but in this particular occasion, there was someone who actually captured this whole event. And then, after capturing the event, and this is what's special about the life of the Messenger, is that it was supposed to be relayed onto others, and that's why we have it preserved, and then it gets relayed to the community throughout its history. So basically, we're talking about from sunset all the way until the break of dawn, and when we end up discussing it, it's as if we were there with him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Al-Abbas ibn al-Muttalib, ibn Abd al-Muttalib, radiyallahu anhu. Al-Abbas is the uncle of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he is the brother of Abdullah. However, he was very close in proximity to the Messenger in age. Although out of respect, he would say the Messenger is greater than me and I was born before him. So even when you express yourself, there's a way of expressing yourself with a respectful fashion. So let's say there is an uncle or an older person, and I may be taller than that person. I shouldn't say I'm taller. Maybe my size is a bit taller, but he's greater in status. So just something related to etiquette. So Al-Abbas sends his son Abdullah. Abdullah becomes, again, a very interesting character in the history of Islam, because he's called Habru Hadhi al-Ummah, which is basically the great scholar of Islam. He's also called Turjumanul Quran, the interpreter of the Quran. Now, Abdullah, this little boy, was sent by his father to get something. So he comes in the evening time and he notices that the messenger was sitting in the masjid. So he thought, maybe it's not appropriate for me to talk to him. So he refrains, and then he notices that he gets busy doing Salatul Maghrib, which is what we just did. He gets busy doing sunset ritual. The messenger finishes Salatul Maghrib, but he goes up and he engages in voluntary worship all the way till Isha. And this is actually a prophetic sunnah. Many people are not aware of it. Of course, a lot of people know the sunnah is you do at least 2 rak'ahs after Maghrib. But there is a tradition of many of the righteous that they would continue from Maghrib time till Isha time in ritual worship. They just constantly perform 2 rak'ahs after 2. And then Salatul Isha is announced, adhan is made, and he sees the Messenger of God leading people in Salah. Then, after Salatul Isha, he prays 2 rak'ahs of voluntary worship. So much so that he was the last one leaving the mosque. Then he goes to his house, and Abdullah is still trying to do what? Talk to him. But he's noticing that he's too busy, he's preoccupied, so I don't want to bother him. I don't want to get in his way. So Ibn Abbas goes after him to the house, and he says, your uncle, my father, needs something. So then the Messenger of God told him, Ya bunayya biti laylata indana. Since it's nighttime, he says, my son, young man, why don't you spend the night here in our house today? And the Messenger ﷺ at that particular night was spending the evening with Ibn Abbas's aunt named Maymuna. Maymuna is the aunt of Ibn Abbas. It is his mother's sister. So he's going to his cousin, the Messenger of God, but he's also going to his aunt's house. And basically, Ibn Abbas wanted that. A lot of times, again, you notice in families, there are specific relatives that you know that have a very special place in your heart. So, when we were young, if they told us we're going to our aunt's house, that was like, it was Eid time. Because my cousins are there, we had a lot of fun, we had a lot of treats. So I'm imagining Ibn Abbas was also feeling the same way. And basically, it's something that he was interested in. And now that the messenger has presented it before him, he's like, you know what? I'm spending the time in my uncle's or my cousin's house and also my aunt's house. Where does this come from? There are specific teachings in Islam. There is a hadith that says, عَمُّ الرَّجُلِ صِنْوُ أَبِيهِ. The uncle of a person, of a man, has the same status as his father. So the status of respect, the status of honoring, the status of obedience, as long as they're not asking you to do something not allowed. So this is something that Islam teaches us. The elders have a special relationship. لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ لَمْ يُوَقِّرْ كَبِيرَنَا وَيَرْحَمْ صَغِيرَنَا وَيَعْلَمْ لِعَالِمِنَا حَقَّهِ. He's not from our community, the messenger says, the one who doesn't give deference to our elders, who is compassionate and merciful to our youngsters, and who doesn't give respect to our scholars. So this is part and parcel of Islam. Also, the Messenger ﷺ says, Al-Khalatu Ummun, which means the aunt, the maternal aunt, is the rank of a mother. And basically that should make sense. But the Prophet here is emphasizing that. So Ibn Abbas goes into the house of the Messenger ﷺ, and he says to himself, he's a youngster, he says, I'm not going to sleep tonight. I am going to watch what the Messenger of God is going to do and how he's going to perform his night ritual. How is he going to engage in night vigil? Again, we hear a lot about night vigil in the Prophet's life. He used to stand up and pray, but now he's saying, I want to witness and record what's going on. So then he says, I'm staying up tonight. And his objective, again, is to learn the Prophet's tradition. What is he going to do? And then he was so keen and concerned, he tells his aunt, he says, look, in case I fall asleep, because remember, they didn't have distractions. Like right now, if I say I'm not going to sleep tonight, I got this to keep me awake all night long. They had no distractions. And when the lights go off, meaning the sun goes down, everyone goes to sleep. So he says, in case I fall asleep, when the Prophet of God stands up to worship his Lord, make sure that you wake me up, aunt. And the Prophet sits down, and this was a typical tradition of his. He sits and he talks to his wife, Maymuna, for a period of time. Then basically they go to sleep, they lay in bed together, and all he knows is that in the Prophet's bed there's only one pillow for both of them, and Ibn Abbas basically is using a side of the pillow. So let's say the pillow is going this way, the Prophet and his wife are here, and Ibn Abbas has his head on the other side. Meaning they're sharing this simple and humble, I don't know what you call it, bed. Of course, we already discussed that the Prophet's bed was extremely humble. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So he's keeping a watchful eye. That's where the word vigil comes from. That you're vigilant. You're constantly awake. So he's like checking it out. When is he going to get up? When is he waking up? And then how is he going to perform this? So in the middle of the night. So when does the middle of the night start according to Islam? Is it at midnight? So actually scholars differ on this subject, but let's say if we say the night starts with sunset and it ends with the break of dawn, what would be the middle of the night according to us? So when is the sun setting today? About 8 o'clock, right? Give or take. When is Fajr? Give or take. 4 or 5, 4:30, right? So what's the midway point between those two? Is it midnight right now? It's about midnight in this time of the year. But it's not like that all the time. So when it was midway through the night, the Messenger of God gets up and he looks at Ibn Abbas and he sees him asleep and he says, Nam al-Ghulayim. He says out loud, the young boy has fallen asleep. Then the Messenger of God does the following. He gets up and he starts wiping the sleep out of his face. This is not with water. He's just waking himself up with his hands. He's wiping his blessed face. Then he looks up to the sky in a way of reflection and pondering. And he's recognizing how quiet the night is and how everything comes to a standstill. And then he starts reciting certain passages from the Quran. إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Surely in the creation of the heavens and the earth and the alternation of night and day are signs for those people who have intellect. الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا سُبْحَانَكَ فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. They are the ones. Who are the true intelligent ones according to this particular passage? They are the ones who remember God while they're standing, while they're sitting, and while they're laying on their sides. وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And they ponder over the creation of the heavens and the earth, and then they declare, رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. Our Lord and Master, you have not made this all in vain for no reason. Subhanak, you are above any imperfection. Glory be to you. فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Protect us from the punishment of the fire. This is Ali Imran chapter 3, verses 190 and 191. And he reads 10 passages. So basically it's all the way till the conclusion of this particular chapter. And this is a beautiful practice of the Messenger ﷺ, where he's actually interacting with the passages. You know, many of us, we know that we're supposed to say certain things at specific times, but we don't allow it to have an impact on us. So here what we see is in his physical reaction, he's actually looking in the heavens, as the verses say, reflect over the heavens and the earth. Now, some of us may read something, but we're like in our house because we're engaged in the book or in the smart device. But these are types of passages that are supposed to direct us to the creation of Allah for us to have a reflection moment. I gave a khutbah about this in IOK. So if you want to check out more commentary on these ayat, I recommend that you do that. And I think it was called the true intellectuals. Because intellectuals has a different meaning for different people. But now if Allah says somebody's an intellectual, that's truly who the intellectual are. Another thing which has to do with Arabic, we have the word here, qu'udan. So qa'ada means to sit down. But we have another word in Arabic which is jalasa. So what's the difference between jalasa and qa'ada? So the Arabic linguists say, this is a side point again, because I teach Arabic in the morning time, so I have to kind of share that with you guys. So whenever we look something up in class, we got to share it here. So who knows what qa'da and jalasa is? The one who was with me in the morning, tell me. They're both sitting. One is sitting up and one is sitting down. How do you sit up when you're in sujood? What situation are you in? What condition are you in? You're down, right? Your face is down. When you go up and you sit, that's called jalsatul istiraha. So you're sitting up. What is sitting down? When you're standing and you go downhill. That is called qu'ud. That's just a nuanced Arabic discussion, okay? So now you get to say, I learned something in Arabic. So he completed these 10 passages. Then he goes to a container and it's described as something that is worn out. This is very interesting because you would think, the messenger of God, he would keep the furniture in his house brand new, right? Because what are people going to say? You're the messenger of God, you better have something presentable. Of course, we already spoke about his humble dwellings and his humble bed. And now we're talking about a container that has water and it had been worn out. So what did they use to keep water in? A animal skin. Okay, so like a bottle of water that's made out of animal skin. So he releases its rope, and then he pours some water in another container, and he makes what's described as, he washes himself in a very light way, but he makes sure that every body part that needs to be washed has water reach it. So again, this is a great example of how the messenger used water to clean and purify himself. And this is something, again, that we have to work on, because a lot of us now, with running water, we just turn the faucet on and just keep the water running. I remember one brother, this happened a long time ago when I wasn't as wise as I may be now. We were in a conference and we go into the masjid and the brother turns on the water all the way. And he's talking, he's having a conversation and trying to do wudu. So I told him, turn it down. So this is his image of me. He's like, the first time I met you, we were in a bathroom and he told me to turn down the water. So you don't need to keep the water running like that. So you turn the water as much as you need to use. And the scholars show us that, even a bottle of water like this, you can use half of this to make wudu, to make proper wudu, where every single part of your body that needs to be wet gets wet. We don't need to waste a lot of water. But that requires practice, especially when we are accustomed to something, we don't even realize it. But try to listen to it. Look how much water is being wasted, right? So may Allah help us not to be of the wasters. So the messenger of God here, he makes wudu, and it was a cold night. That's what it's described as. Yes, sir? Paper usage? Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Prophet didn't dry himself after wudu. Now I'm going to get in trouble. Like, what do you mean he didn't dry himself? Yeah, he actually would take a shower and not dry himself with a towel. We have a report that says his wife offered him a towel and he rejected it after a bath. He just would wipe water off of himself and just let it, But of course, they wore different things than we wear. But the key here is not to be wasteful in whatever we use. So yes, definitely with paper that we have around, whether it's paper towels or toilet paper, we definitely have to also be considerate of that. Anyway, this particular night was a very cold night. So he's washing himself, and then he takes his siwak and he starts brushing his teeth. And he took great care of his oral hygiene, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was constantly brushing his teeth. And the way he brushed his teeth is a beautiful way that doesn't require water. Like for us right now, when you brush your teeth, they say, you should spend 2 minutes, You should be right there in front of a mirror and you're doing this, and they got the timer, the sand timer, especially for little children, to time yourself. You got to do it 60 minutes at least, 60 seconds, right? So the Messenger of God would constantly use this dry piece of wood, or moist piece of wood. It's a tree called the arak tree, which is found in East Africa and Southern Arabia. And people use the word siwak. Siwak actually just means a toothbrush. He used a specific kind of siwak called the arak siwak. So arak is the tree type. Anyway, so he brushes his teeth, and then he wears, so we're getting the description of what he wore. He wore an article of clothing from Hadramaut, which is southern Yemen, and he puts it on himself because it was cold. So he covers himself with it. Kind of like, in a way, we would wear a sweater or a jacket. Then he gets up and he starts his salah, his ritual worship. So Ibn Abbas here is peeping him. That's what it says. Ibn Abbas yarmuquhu. It means like he's laying down, but he's watching what's going on. And he's looking at every single detail. That's how we got everything recorded, because Ibn Abbas is capturing these images. You know how they say a Kodak moment? Ibn Abbas decided to play the video recorder here and just record every single moment that he was seeing. So then he begins his salah, and Ibn Abbas at this moment stands up. And he starts basically being kind of unbalanced, as is expected for somebody who's just woken up. But also, he wanted to pretend to the Messenger of God that I wasn't awake, watching what you were doing. Because that may have been private, right? Especially that the Messenger of God says the young boy is asleep. So he wanted to ensure that all of this was done like it's his private thing. He saw the Prophet without the Prophet realizing it. So Ibn Abbas makes the same wudu that he saw the Messenger of God do, which is again washing himself, cleansing himself, purification. I purposely don't use the word ablution, because you know only Muslims know what this word means. So whenever I speak English and we explain things in English to English speakers, use words they're familiar with. They know what washing means. They got no clue what ablution means. You're just going to confuse them. They're like, what is this thing that you guys do called ablution? It's a dead word. Nobody uses it. But if you say ritual cleansing, it means I'm washing myself for a ritual cause. They would understand it better. So he then stands to the left of the Messenger of God. After he makes wudu, he stands to the left of the Messenger of God. So the Messenger grabs him with his hand and he turns him around. He turns him around and puts him to the right. And then the Messenger of God, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, would actually touch him and make sure that he's okay while in salah. He would put his hand on his head, and then he would hold his ear, basically because he's getting restless, right? The child is getting restless, he's looking all around, and so he's trying to grab his attention. And this is all within salah. And then Ibn Abbas says, the reason why he kept making physical contact with me is to keep me company because the night was scary. You know, like little children are terrified of the dark. So it's like he wanted me to feel safe. You know, one of the most important things you can do to people or for people is to allow them to feel safe. Most people are actually scared to open up with you. But as soon as they realize you're a safe person to open up to, they'll open up and they'll confide in you their, you can say, darkest secrets. But they must feel safe with you. And Ibn Abbas felt completely safe with the Messenger of God, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. Ibn Abbas notices that the Messenger, the very first thing he did was in the beginning of his salah, night vigil, he did 2 quick rak'ahs. So he didn't start off very long, kind of like warming up to what he's about to do. And this is a prophetic tradition. That's why before salah, there is a small sunnah that we make. Usually when you come to the masjid, you do tahiyyatul masjid, greeting the mosque. The point behind that is to get you into what? In the zone. But if you were thinking about something or doing something and you're running towards salah, once you begin salah, your mind is not all there. And physically also, you're not comfortable because you're basically still breathing hard. But you come in, you take your sweet time, and you warm up into the proper salah. Then he performs 11 extra, what they call supererogatory or voluntary nawafil, and he makes the total 13 rak'ahs. And it was something that was very long, and he spent most of the night engaged in it. And Ibn Abbas estimated that the time that they stood up was about 1/3 of the night. 1/3 of the night. So what is the night right now? We said 4 and 4 is 8 hours. What's 1/3 of 8? But 1/3 of 8. Math. Come on. Math, folks. The math whizzes in the house. 2.5 close to 3. About 3 hours, right? About 3 hours. 2.5 to 3 hours. So 2.5 to 3 hours they stood up doing Salatul Layl. Ibn Abbas now records for us. This is amazing. He records for us, what did the Prophet begin his salah with? There is something called Du'a al-Istiftah. Istiftah is what you begin your salah with. So when we begin salah, now a lot of people know the basic thing is for you to do A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and read something. Some people know that you are to read something called Ath-Thana. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik wa tabaraka asmuk wa ta'ala jadduk wa la ilaha ghayruk. That's brief. Other schools of law may have other words of praise of Allah, like wajjahtu wajhiya lilladhi fatara as-samawati wal ard, and so on and so forth. So each one of these is recorded to have taken place in the life of the Messenger. But here specifically, Ibn Abbas says, I heard him say the following. So that's what I'll be reading and what we will be extracting lessons from. So he makes takbir, and then he says, Allahumma lakal hamd. Oh God, to you belongs all the praise. Anta qayyumus samawati wal ardi wa man fihin. You are the one that keeps alive and keeps upright everyone that is in the heavens and the earth, and everyone that is in them. وَلَكَ الْحَمْدِ أَنْتَ نُورُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَنْ فِيهِنْ. And to you is all the praise. You are the light of the heavens and the earth, and you are the source of light for anyone that has it in between them. وَلَكَ الْحَمْدِ أَنْتَ رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَنْ فِيهِنْ. To you is all the praise. Surely you are the Lord and Master of the heavens and the earth and everything that is in them. وَأَنْتَ الْحَقِّ. You are the ultimate truth. وَقَوْلُكَ الْحَقِّ. And your words are true. وَوَعْدُكَ حَقِّ. And your promise is true. وَالْجَنَّةُ حَقِّ. And paradise is true. وَالنَّارُ حَقِّ. And the fire is true. وَالسَّاعَةُ حَقِّ. And the hour judgment is true. Allahumma laka aslamt. Oh God, to you I submit. Wa bika amant. And in you I believe. Wa alayka tawakkalt. And in you I trust and rely on. Wa ilayka anabt. And to you I return in repentance. Wa bika khasamt. And through you I ask for my rights. Meaning I don't ask for my rights based on my personal desires. Bika khasamt. Wa ilayka hakamt. And I make you the judge and the one who decides in my matters. Anta rabbuna wa ilayka al-masir. You are our Lord, and to you is the ultimate return. Rabbi ighfir li ma asrartu wa ma a'lant. My Lord, forgive me for the things that I made public and the things that I have private. The things that I hide and the things that I publicize. وَمَا قَدَّمْتُ وَمَا أَخَّرْتُ. The things that happened in the past and the things that are not yet to happen. أَنْتَ إِلَهِي لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ. You are my Lord, you are my God. There is nothing deserving of worship beside you. So Ibn Abbas says that's how he started his salah. What's the point in istiftah? Istiftah is meant to praise Allah. That's why some of the scholars call it thana. Thana is to praise and to compliment. So you begin by speaking highly of Allah. And by the way, this is a key thing whenever you want to make requests of Allah. A good etiquette is in the beginning of your request, before you say, oh Allah, guide me, oh Allah, bless me, oh Allah, have mercy on me. You say, oh Allah, you are good, you are kind, you are great. And then you make your request. So you start off by praising Him, because Allah loves to be praised. And the more you praise Him, the more He'll give you in return. So this is a key thing that the Prophet teaches us sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his practice. So you say, so this is the very first thing he's doing in worship. Exactly, that's the very first thing he's doing in worship. Thana, the one that most people are familiar with, is Subhanaka Allahumma Rabbana wa bihamdik wa tabarak asmuk wa ta'ala jadduk wa la ilaha ghayruk. You are the most perfect, our Lord. Subhanaka Allahumma Rabbana wa bihamdik. To you is all the praise. We declare your perfection while praising you. Wa tabarak asmuk. Your name is the most blessed one. Wa ta'ala jadduk. And your honor is the highest. Wa la ilaha ghayruk. And there is no God beside you. So we are taught to engage in praising Allah. Allah loves to be praised. Then Ibn Abbas says, and what did he used to say in his sujood? So we are told in another narration that the closest that a human being could be to their Lord is in salah, in sujood, in worship, in ritual worship, but specifically with your face on the ground. The most humble state that a human could be in worship is the closest state they are to their Lord. So the Prophet says, increase in dua in that particular situation. So he would say the following: Allahumma ja'al fi qalbi nura. Oh Allah, place light in my heart. وَفِي سَمْعِ نُورًا, and place light in my hearing. وَفِي لِسَانِ نُورًا, and place light in my tongue. وَفِي بَصَرِ نُورًا, and place light in my vision. وَعَنْ يَمِينِ نُورًا, and place light to my right. وَعَنْ شِمَالِ نُورًا, place light to my left. وَمِن تَحْتِ نُورًا, place light underneath of me. وَمِن فَوْقِ نُورًا, place light on top of me. وَمِن بَيْنِ يَدَيَّ نُورًا, place light before me. وَمِن خَلْفِ نُورًا, place light behind me. وَأَعْظِمْ لِي نُورًا, and grant me great light. What does this tell you? Isn't it interesting that in the depth of the darkness, what is he asking for? Light. But this is not just physical light, this is spiritual light. So when you say, oh Allah, make my eyes, my vision be full of light, what does that mean? Allow me to see things that other people don't see. Allow me to be guided. But also allow me to only see things that you are pleased with. Because you can't mix light and darkness. If light comes, darkness disappears. So darkness is sin, and darkness is evil, and darkness is bad. So what's light going to be? Good, and lawful, and rewarding. So that's the point. He's saying, Allah, surround me with goodness. I don't want to be near evil. Then Ibn Abbas says, when he completed his salah, he went back to sleep. He laid down, and he actually went into deep sleep, so much so that Ibn Abbas heard him breathing heavily. When Bilal called the announcement to the break of dawn, he gets up and he does 2 quick rak'ahs. Then he goes to the masjid and he leads the community in Salatul Fajr. So all of this is happening in his studio apartment. That is where he spends the night with his wife, where he receives a guest, and this is where he worships his Lord. So this is a typical night in the life of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the author says, let us reflect over this blessed night and let's see the guidance that he exemplified in it. 1, the scholars say there's a genre of knowledge called Dala'ilun Nubuwah. Dala'ilun Nubuwah are what the scholars consider evidences for Muhammad's prophethood. And these are very important matters, by the way. Many people don't know why we should believe in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the scholars have compiled books throughout history. What are the reasons why he is God's true prophet? No doubt about it. Because, it's very important when you're trusting someone and saying that this individual is going to lead me to salvation. It can't just be because of your racial background or where you come from or because your parents told you he's the messenger of God. You have to be convinced this man is the messenger of God. He receives revelation and he only speaks the truth, and I'm going to live my life according to his teachings. So they collected these works called Dala'ilun Nubuwah. The author says this particular narration should be included in Dala'ilun Nubuwah, evidences for prophethood. And he says, the reason being is because it's a proof that this man was truthful. Why? He says, whoever leaves his sleep and his slumber and his rest in the middle of his house, he leaves his wife's bed, all he has is a wife in there behind closed doors and a young man, a young boy, and they're clearly asleep. He could have taken a day off and said, you know what? Let me just rest. But he gets up, performing salah for 3 hours plus, and clearly he's not showcasing or showing off. He didn't need to do this. He was doing it because he felt that he needed to serve his Lord. This is a person who has complete certainty in God, and this is not the action of someone, again, who's faking it. Because whenever you're alone, whenever you're in privacy, people typically will return back to their nature. When nobody's watching, people will do what they're accustomed to. That's huge. So basically, an example of that is, again, you may see a particular speaker and you see the best of them because they're putting on a show, if you will. So you see the best of them. They are smiling, they're kind, they're respectful. But in their homes is where people really see what these people are about. So now the Messenger of God, we said this time and again, that he was the best person behind closed doors as he was the best person outside in public. And that is the challenge, is to keep that balance. Now, he had no doubt that he was worshiping God and that he was on the truth. And that's why, basically, one of the examples of proof of his prophethood is this particular thing. And this proves that he is not someone who's making this up. By the way, the way they actually compare this to many false prophets is false prophets are typically the worst people to their families. Especially modern day cult leaders. Any cult leader you hear about, they got a great following in public, but ask their family about them. There's always scandals with cult leaders. Their family's like, man, this person is preaching the gospel in front of thousands of people, but behind closed doors, he's a wicked individual. He's corrupt. He's nasty. X, Y, and Z. The Messenger of God, in the privacy of his home, he didn't have a doubt that he was God's messenger, and he showcased his gratitude to his Lord. 2, the Messenger of God here shows us in practical terms his statement where it says, جُعِلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ. Remember we spoke about قُرَّةُ الْعَيْن? قُرَّةُ الْعَيْن means coolness of the eye. And of course, no one in English knows what that term means. But what it means is complete satisfaction, being content with what God has given you, where you're not looking elsewhere. So the Messenger of God tells us that my ultimate contentment and my ultimate satisfaction is in devotion and worship to my Lord. And you may be like, yeah, right. Like really, that's the funnest thing you can do? So what is he doing in the middle of the night other than salah? That's exactly what he's doing. You must really enjoy it. Like in the middle of the night, if somebody wakes up and they're craving something. Let's say I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm craving ice cream. And you ask me, what's your qurratu ayn? I say, ice cream. That is the coolness of my eye. In fact, that's the coolness to my tongue and the coolness to my stomach. Because it's cool, especially now in the summer heat. The Prophet of God wakes up in the middle of the night and he's craving salah. That is a state of the messengers of God. This is huge. Because for us, a lot of us, it's almost like a chore. You know, oh, here we go. It's time again. Let me get up and do this thing. He's doing this voluntarily. This is not the 5 daily salawat. 5 daily salawat, all in all, take less than an hour, right? He's doing this in the time of his rest, off business hours. No one is watching. He has all the excuses in the world. Remember, we said if you want to find justification and excuses, he had a long day. He had compassion fatigue because he cared for so many people. He was injured in battle. He lost a loved one, and so on and so forth. He has all the excuses in the world to go to sleep and just knock out. But in the middle of his sleep, he's able to get up, ensure that those around him are rested, and they are sound asleep, and then engage in private, confidential worship between him and his Lord. Sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. So, how many units of salah did he perform? Remember we said it started at sunset. That's when the night started. So he did salah from Maghrib all the way to Isha. Now I get to talk for about an hour, and I'm just sitting down, and I get tired just talking. He was doing for a whole hour and a half salah, between Maghrib all the way till Isha. Then after Isha, he performs 4 rak'ahs. So let's just try to do some math. Nobody was remaining in the mosque after him. Then he performs 13 rak'ahs, and he spends about a third of the night in it. This shows us how intertwined his life was with salah, prescribed ritual devotion to his Lord. And the point behind it is, when this is what you crave, as soon as it ends, you can't wait for it to come back again. It's connected. You know, like most people take a break. They may say, you know what, I need to take a break to wind off. They may enjoy their work. They're like, you know what, I want to stop using my email right now. I want to take a break. The Prophet of God never took a break from salah. Even on his deathbed. That's the one thing he did not want to leave off. Although he may have had excuses to do that. So when he comes back to it, he's coming back to it yearning for it. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Now, when the Messenger of God would perform salah, he's not a person who was remembering the sins that he committed before the salah. Typically, many of us, when we do salah, we're like, I hope Allah forgives me. That's why I'm meeting with my Lord right now, seeking forgiveness. That's why most people worship. They're like, you know what, I have a lot of imperfections. What sins was he asking forgiveness for? He knows his Lord promised him. This is what Allah tells him. لِيَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكَ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِن ذَنْبِكَ وَمَا تَأَخَّرَ وَيُتِمَّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ وَيَهْدِيَكَ صِرَاطًا مُسْتَقِيمًا. Your Lord will forgive all your past mistakes and all the future mistakes. And He will complete His favor unto you, and He will guide you to a straight path. He's not concerned with being forgiven at this moment. Like, I made a mistake, and the reason why I'm doing salah, because He told us, He says, one salah to the next is an expiation for everything that's between them. That's a beautiful thing for us. It's like, you know what? If I made any mistake between Maghrib and Isha, I will be forgiven. Between Isha and Fajr, I will be forgiven. I can rest assured that Allah is generous if it's a minor sin, not a major sin. If it's a sin between me and God, not between me and the creation. So the point here is he's recalling and recollecting other things other than forgiveness. He's recollecting true servitude to his Lord. He wants to be a true servant to God. He's recollecting the love of God. I'm doing this because I love Allah. He's doing this recollecting the beauty of communicating with God, actually enjoying it. When people are in love, they love talking to each other. I don't know if you guys ever been in love, but when you're in love, talking to someone means the whole world to you. So the Prophet was in love with Allah. So that's why he speaks like this. He talks, he praises Him. You know, when you're in love with someone, you say, you're so beautiful. Look at your eyes. Man, your hair is so good. You smell so nice. That's what people do to each other. So now with Allah, what is He telling him? Allah, you're the light of the heavens and the earth and everything that's between them. You're the master of the... And he's enjoying this and he's praising Allah and he's saying, if I can praise you in any better way, I would. So anyway, the point is, you want to... He was trying to get more access to Allah and communicating with Him. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Also, as he was performing this devotion, it was not a chore. It was not a chore. It was a joy. There is a huge difference between chores and joys. Vacuuming. I'm going to give examples from my life. Most people think vacuuming is a chore. I personally enjoy vacuuming because the house gets cleaned afterwards. I enjoy that, right? So, but other things, they are chores. Like dishes, I don't enjoy doing dishes. I feel it's a chore. But now, if you're able to do things out of joy, they have a huge impact onto you. This is an act of worship now. Some people think, I must do this. It feels like a heavy burden. You know, oh, we're done with salah. Okay, alhamdulillah, no more salah today. We performed Isha, now we're free. Prophet didn't look at ibadah that way, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. That's why he's the same person who's quoted to have said, whenever things get difficult, he says, Arihna biha ya Bilal. O Bilal, allow us to relax and to rest through salah. That was Bilal's cue. Whenever things get tough, Bilal, go announce salah. We need to rest. 2, he says, جُعِلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ. If you want to close the door, that would be wise. Yeah. Thank you. Jazakallah khairan. The third lesson out of this is this event takes place in the 9th year after the Prophet's migration to Medina. 9th year. What does this tell you? How old was he in the 9th year? He passes away in the 10th year. How old was he in the 10th year? 63. So now he's in his 60s. This is called retirement age. He's had ministry for 22 years. He has all the excuses in the world to hang it up, to say, I'm done. I've paid my dues. This is after Mecca was subdued and Allah granted victory to the Muslims. After the whole of Arabia gives him allegiance and he becomes the leader of it. Yet, you still see simplicity in life. Because somebody can say, in the early days, they had this economic embargo and they didn't have food. But right now, he's actually the king of Arabia. King of Arabia. And he's sleeping in these humble dwellings. The water that they drink from is the same water that they wash from. The container that's described is something that has been worn out. It's not brand new. He doesn't have many material things. This is the house that Allah has purified. Allah says, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. God intends to remove filth and evil from you, O family of the Prophet, and to purify you a great purification. Part of purification spiritually is to purify you from material things. So you have no worldly attachments. Again, we're about to experience the story of Ibrahim in this month. The story of Hajj. Allah commanded this mighty messenger of his to sacrifice his son. And the point is not because God is bloodthirsty and he requires a human sacrifice. That's pagan religions that say God requires a human sacrifice. God does not require human sacrifice. But God wanted Abraham to sacrifice his worldly attachment to anything else but God. And here the messenger of God showcases that. I have no worldly attachment. I'm the king of Arabia, and so what? I'm comfortable in my own skin. I don't need to act differently and dress differently and have different furniture to appease others. This is what I'm satisfied with. It does the job. I'm okay with it. So, we said one bed, or actually, I don't know if you can call it a bed, one sleeping bag. I think the closest thing to the Prophet's bed would be a sleeping bag. And that's why Ibn Abbas didn't have a bed. He actually slept with them on their same accommodation. He didn't have a specific pillow. This is a guest. He's not just any guest. He's the nephew of Maymuna, and he is the cousin of the Messenger of God, and the son of the most beloved uncle to the Messenger of God. Al-Abbas was very close to the Messenger of God, especially after Abu Talib's death. Al-Abbas was very close to the Messenger of God. So you're talking about someone who's very honored, an honored guest, but they don't have much to offer. So they say, you sleep with us. I mean, that's the best thing you can do, is to offer your own bedding to your guest. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam here showcases to us something amazing. And Ibn Abbas, recording all the details of this night, didn't mention what they ate that night. What did they have for dinner? Compare our situation with theirs. If I was to ask, what did I have for dinner? I could count a whole grocery list of what we have for dinner. And that's just one dinner in one night. And it's but yeah, I had multiple dinners that night. A few days ago, we were invited to a brother's house, and mashallah, he had smoked some good food, some ribs. And one of the brothers came and he's like, look, this is my first dinner tonight, but I'm invited to another dinner, so I can't eat too much, right? And we're just normal human beings. We don't have the state that the Messenger of God had. This man had no food that night. Nobody paid attention to that. From Maghrib till Fajr, there was no mention of food. Now, if we were to look at typical humans, food is such a huge part of their lives. So I know, in a lot of families, they're eating lunch, and as they're eating, they say, so what are we going to have for dinner? What are you doing? You're eating right now. But they're planning their next meal. What was the Messenger of God planning? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
planning the next meeting with his Lord. So between Maghrib and Isha, he was in Salah. After Isha, he was in Salah. In the middle of the night, he was in Salah. That was what he was planning. So he's like, I finished this, and my next appointment is with Allah again, subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is amazing. Now, this messenger of God is the person who spent his time in ministry. We spoke about this last week when we discussed sanctity of life. Islam has a martial tradition. Martial as in, there is war, there is fighting to defend the truth and to spread the truth. So there is a martial tradition, and the messenger of God engaged in that. He wasn't a pacifist, right? He engaged in that. So he physically labored through preaching and ministry and caring for a community, but also defending the community physically. He did all of that to fix and help people's lives in this life and in the next. And when he left people, he didn't take anything from their material lives. You know, like if someone helps you to attain salvation, like sometimes I look and I say to myself about some of my teachers who've taught me some things. I say, I wish I had $1 million just to give to them, because they deserve more. About the few things that they taught me. This is the man that causes salvation to humanity. And he didn't request anything of their materialism when he passes away. He doesn't need any of it. He has his Lord. And that's why he used to say, this is the quote, Ya qawmi la as'alukum alayhi ajra. Every single messenger of God, by the way, said the same statement. Oh my people, I do not request a price tag for my services. In ajriya illa ala alladhi fatarani. My reward and compensation is with the one who made me out of nothing. أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Do you not think? Do you not reflect? The messengers did not come to amass money. That is key, by the way. Whenever you see religious people in any religion making a huge fortune out of the religion they're using, that is the definition of false religion. That's why you have cults. And that's why you have corruption. And that's why you have preachers who don't mind buying a private jet for $52 million. Where does it come from? The poor churchgoer donations. What's the excuse? I'm spreading the word of the Lord in a private jet. You can't travel economy class? Recently during the World Cup, they showcased the president of, what country was it that played in the final? Croatia? They had a woman president. They said she traveled economy class. She's the president of the country. She traveled economy class. There is no shame in that. But some people are ashamed to be human. They want to showcase that they are beyond that. The messengers were not like that. Number 4. You see the balance in the messenger's personality, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And you see how, that's what I showcase in that series called The Prophet's Day or Prophetic Day, where every single role that he played, and he played multiple roles and he wore multiple hats and he was in different conditions and circumstances. When he was outside of the house, Ibn Abbas noticed that he was tending to people's needs. And that's why Ibn Abbas didn't approach him. He saw him answering people's questions, counseling somebody, ministering to someone. He left him alone. So that was a balance. It wasn't like he's selfish. You know what? My satisfaction is in salah, leave me alone. In his work day, he was with the people. In his private time, he was with his Lord. That's a huge balance in his life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he was preoccupied with the people's needs, and in this way, he was giving the people their due rights. And then after he goes home, what does he do? For that early period of night, he sits down and gets an update from his wife and talks to her and comforts her, makes her feel important before he turns to his own personal satisfaction spiritually. May Allah help us to be like that to our families. Then he goes to sleep. And whose right was he fulfilling when he went to sleep? The right of his body. That's a balance in his life. Many people, by the way, you notice great people in life, those who've achieved a lot of success, they are imbalanced. I know many people who have great success. They call them workaholics. They're world famous. They don't sleep. I know people who are successful, but they don't spend any time with their family. I know people who spend a lot of time with their family and they're bums. All of the above is a problem because it shows imbalance. The Prophet ﷺ, when they described him, they say, كَانَ مُعْتَدِلَ الْمَزَاجِ. His temperament was balanced. He didn't like cold and he didn't like hot. He didn't like spicy and he didn't like bland. He didn't like anything that was extreme. And most people only think of one extreme. So like if I was to say, what's an extremist? All you guys will imagine somebody that looks like me. Like those are the extremists, right? But we forget about the other extreme. Everything has two extremes. So if somebody has a long beard, he's an extremist. What about the man with no beard? He's an extremist too. You got to be balanced like the Shaykh right there. Some beard. Not too long, not too short, just right. Right? So everything must be balanced in life. And the Prophet ﷺ showcased great balance to teach his community. Then, like we said, he stands up to give the right of his Lord. And all of his roles were present in this particular night. So although this is a part of a prophet's day, you see every single role of his. Number one, the imam role. Imam here in the comprehensive meaning of imam. I'm not talking about imam of salah, by the way. This concept of, this is a liberal, secular concept where imam of salah becomes a role. The Prophet was not just imam of salah. When you say imam, it means actually a leader. He ran that community. So imam in Islam actually means the one who's in charge politically. That's the proper understanding of imam. Imam is not just the one who leads salah. That's like the least, although it's very important because it's an act of worship, but the least or smallest role of the imam in Islam is leading salah. Because an imam's job is to serve the community. Right? Sayyidul Qawmi khadimuhum. The master of people is their servant. So he showcases being an imam, a great leader, and also imam of salah. Yes. But I mention this because many of us have this dichotomy. Our concepts are twisted. When we say the Messenger of God was the imam, it didn't mean he just led salah. That was one of the roles of the imam. But he was the decision maker, he was the judge, he was the commander in chief, and so on and so forth. Two, we see him as a husband. In this night, we see him as a worshiper. We see him as a human being. We see him as a relative, right? As a cousin. We see him having given everyone their due rights. أَدَّى لِكُلِّ ذِي حَقٍّ حَقَّهُ. Did we ever cover the hadith that says, give each their due rights? We didn't. Inshallah, maybe we'll have that in one night. Everything in our lives has rights over us. Our parents have rights, our spouses have rights, our children have rights, our neighbors have rights, our society has rights, our community has rights, our bodies have rights, our minds have rights, our souls have rights. We must give every entity in life their due rights. Most people, however, are imbalanced, out of whack. So they may give a lot of rights to Allah. Let's say. Again, that's the complaint that some people have. Oh, those people who go to the mosque. Okay. This is a person who's imbalanced. They don't take care of their families. That means he's imbalanced. That's not practicing Islam. Islam teaches you to be balanced. Okay, so this person, he takes care of his family, but we never see him in the community. Okay, that's imbalance. Imbalances are not healthy. If someone has a chemical imbalance in their brain, what do the doctors give them? You guys heard of this concept? Some people have problems mentally. They call it a chemical imbalance. They must give a medication to balance things out. So if we are imbalanced in our lives, what do we have to do? What would be the medication? We got to have a few pills of the Sunnah, to balance things out. Go back to the Prophet's tradition. Number 5, the Messenger ﷺ showcases a beautiful attribute here, which is called taking care of his cousin. Family ties. Abdullah ibn al-Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib. The first thing he did was, although we already know, like the Prophet had multiple wives, and every night he spent with a different one to ensure that each one is given her due rights. And he would see them, by the way, what you would discover if you look at his life, every night he would actually meet all of them and then spend the night with one. But daily he was seeing all of them. At any rate, here he could have said, this is my private time with my wife. Like, go find yourself some other place. What do you need? What is your dad? Why did your dad send you over here? Right? Especially with children, sometimes you give them an opportunity and they just take advantage of it. They just stick to you like glue. You're like, okay, we get the point. I gave you candy. You're like, no, I want more. I want gum. Every time they see you, I want gum. So here, he invites him over to his house. Then he calls him my son. He calls him sonny. That's a beautiful etiquette of respect. He doesn't say, hey, you boy. He is a boy. Like, that's not a curse word, but gentleness, even in expression. Says, my son. I learned something when I was in Medina. we were, I think, going to the market, and this old lady or old man was selling something, and I was with my teacher, and the teacher is trying to buy something, not because he needs it, but he just wanted to give them business. And he says, Ya walid. Ya walid means my father. I'm like, that's your father? Like, you're buying from your father? And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, why are you calling him daddy? He says, no, this is what we call our elders. You see a lady and you call her ummi. Not because she's your biological mother, but out of respect. You see, so that's why in our culture, what do we call older men? Ammo or chacha, right? Uncle. Out of respect, not because he's related to us. An aunt is an auntie. She's older than us. We have to give him respect. The worst thing now is if you call me ammo. One time I was meeting some students, and I said, what's your name? He's like, my name is Muhammad. What's your name, ammo? I said, who are you talking to? So, but I'm sure the brother only meant well. The point is, respect is part and parcel of our tradition. Also, we see that he allows him to share his own pillow. People are very private with their pillows. A lot of people are like, I'm very private. If I see that somebody borrowed my pillow, I can't go to sleep. Not because I'm worried they're going to eat it, but because I'm used to it. But the Prophet here did not mind that a stranger would come and share his pillow, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also, in the middle of the night, he would keep him company by wiping over his head, by holding onto his ear. And all of these things are basically, he's placing seeds in the heart of Ibn Abbas that Ibn Abbas will never forget. Most children, they have amazing experiences, and what I was told is the experiences that they remember are not the ones that were extremely long, but they're the ones that were very meaningful. So they say, we went out and we went out and we walked in the park. And you're like, I don't even remember that event, but it was meaningful to them. So Ibn Abbas here will forever live to narrate this story. He never forgot about it because the Prophet gave him private time and allowed him to feel safe. What's the point? Number one, the Prophet was honoring his own uncle Abbas. Very key. Number two, honoring the fact that they have this relationship, family ties. Al-Abbas now was not even present there, but do you think he was impacted by this whole behavior? Of course he was. Al-Abbas is never going to forget this, that my son, I went to ask him to get an errand, and he ends up spending the night in the Messenger of God's house. Remember the little girl, when her father was asked, go bring her so the Prophet can clothe her? How did the father feel? He felt like he was like $1 million. It's like the Messenger of God is requesting Khalid, my daughter. Out of the whole city, he asked for her. So here, Al-Abbas would say, the Messenger of God allowed Abdullah to spend the night in his house and to sleep in his bed. So Ibn Abbas, of course, definitely goes back and reports to his father. And this showcases to us, again, when he says the statement that I said earlier, Inna amma rajuli sinwu abi, that the uncle of a man is on the same level as his father, the Prophet practiced that personally. Because it's very easy for me to say, you should respect your uncles, but then I got terrible relationship with my uncles. But the Prophet always did what? He practiced what he preached. لِمَ تَقُولُونَ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ. Why do you say the things which you don't do? كَبُرَ مَقْتًا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَن تَقُولُوا مَا لَا تَعْمَلُونَ. Or ما لا تفعلون. ما لا تفعلون. It is a great offense in front of God that you say the things that you don't do. That's why don't ever preach the things that you don't do. Number 6. The brilliance of Abdullah ibn Abbas, although he was a very small young man. Like you guys and possibly younger, by the way. I think way younger than you. Because the Prophet dies and Ibn Abbas was not even 10 years old yet. You're over 10, right? You're 12? 11. So he's younger than you guys. Maybe he's his age. I don't know if he's faking that he's asleep, by the way, but he's watching everything. And inshallah, 50 years down the line, he'll say, this is what happened. We heard about Ibn Abbas. He's faking it right now, I know. So Ibn Abbas, actually, it says that he was around, if you round off his age, he was about 12. So like you guys, actually, not this young. But he was so keen, he had this resolve, and he was so convinced that I am going to achieve something tonight. He had a goal that he set for himself, and he wanted to achieve it. He was fighting off sleep. Although, again, we spoke about the environment at that time, is that once night falls, people need to go to sleep. They don't have light pollution that keeps you awake. There's nothing that's inviting you to stay awake. Everything is telling you, shut down. Your system should shut down right now. Yet he was fighting sleep, and he was very respectful in the way he recorded all the events that took place. And it says part of the blessing is that we as a community of the Messenger ﷺ throughout history will see this whole program that night and how it unfolded in the life of the Prophet and in this blessed prophetic night, just like we were actually in that bedroom with them. So with that, we ask Allah to bless Ibn Abbas. Allahumma rda anil Abbasi wa an waladil Abbas. For a very long period of time, the children of Al-Abbas were the rulers of the Muslim world. They were the khulafa. So in Jum'ah Salah, the Imams would make this dua, Irda anil Abbas, oh Allah, be pleased with Al-Abbas, and the children of Abbas. Because all his offspring, basically, a lot of them, the children of Abdullah actually specifically, became the khulafa. But we mean it not in the political sense, we mean it in the sense of gratitude that Ibn Abbas preserved this prophetic night for us. So we ask Allah to be pleased with him and to elevate his rank among the righteous. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. We ask Allah to bless the Messenger Muhammad, to honor and compliment him and to shower him with protection and grace, along with his family and his righteous followers, as he did with Ibrahim, his family and righteous followers in the past. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. We ask Allah to give us the best of this life and the best of the next life, and to protect us from the fire. Allahumma a'inna ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. We ask you, Allah, to help us to remember you and to mention you at all times, to be grateful to you for all your blessings through our actions and through our statements, and to worship you in the best of ways and excellent of means according to the way shown by our beloved Messenger Muhammad. We ask you, Allah, to guide us to praise you like your Prophet praised you, and to worship you like he worshipped you, and to give us a balanced life. The Lord existence. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Allah is far above any imperfection. We pray that He's the only one deserving of worship. We seek His forgiveness and we repent to Him. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Who is our mu'adhin today?